People who have been in a coma, what was it like from your perspective? Did you know you were in a coma? This is really bizarre, but my uncle, a very serious, strict and rather dry man, had an accident and went into coma a few years back. He never believed anything he couldn't touch. No talks about souls or anything similar. He was in coma for a few weeks until he woke up and had this crazy ass story. He said he saw himself in a bubble, floating around in a white place, and it was peaceful and beautiful. But then he said about other bubbles he could see around him. All of them had other people in them. He distinctly remembered a black-haired woman singing in the bubble closest to his until one day her bubble bursted and she disappeared. When he woke up he could give a very clear description of her body, age, all that. Now the crazy bit. There was a woman, one floor below him, in a coma that sadly had passed away before he woke up. You guessed it. Black hair, age, body, all correct. He had never met or seen this woman in his life. His whole idea of life changed after this. It still makes me think sometimes. Where was he? He thinks all the people in bubbles around him were patients in the same hospital. Could it be? We'll probably never know. The person I knew in a coma was in it for about 3 weeks and had no recollection of being in a coma. The doctor was saying his name real loud and he finally woke up one day. The doctor asked him if he was, insert real name. The patient said yes, and whom do I have the pleasure of speaking to? Back to the doctor. Homs the F. Sir, are you effing sorry? About 3 years ago I overdosed on sleeping pills and it caused me to go into a coma. I remember a lot of what my family said, but one thing stood out, my dad's voice. I remember him saying, I love you and I know you miss your mom and brother, but I still need you. I was in that damn coma for a month and I woke up 5 minutes after he said that. I couldn't speak because I had tubes down my throat and I was non-verbal for a while after because the pills messed up my brain. I don't know how I remembered, but I remembered the slang sign for I love you. I still struggle with suicide, but anytime I think about it I remember what my dad said and I try to do the opposite of what I was going to do. Edit. I never thought I'd get this many replies. I'm a woman, by the way. I actually talked to my dad today and we argued a bit about me not wanting to go to the hospital. He said he could hear it in my voice that I'm not really doing too good. But I told him I'd be okay, but I don't think he believes it. I will be. I just got to keep busy and deal. I had a seizure and was in a medically induced coma for 3 days when I was 17. To be honest, I don't remember anything. I remember fading in and out of the anesthesia, trying to pull my breathing tube out and that my hands were restrained to the bed so I couldn't. When I woke up and was coherent I couldn't recall anything from actually being in the coma. They had even moved me to a hospital over 100 miles away. It was really just nothing but black. No dreams, no lights, no voices. Just nothing. When I was a kid, my best friend got hit by a car at age 12. She was in a coma for I think a little over a year. She said she felt like she was asleep but was most freaked out when she woke up and saw that she had gone through puberty while in the coma. Some would consider not having to consciously live through puberty to be a good thing. Dunno. I was in a coma for 11 days. Severe brain injury. I don't remember being in a coma or waking up from a coma. I lost several years of memories prior to the coma, and my brain didn't really start to retain information again until 6 weeks after I came out of the coma. I'm told that my personality changed afterwards. I had to rebuild most areas of my life. It sucked, but it was probably a good thing. Although I'd be lying if I said I never wondered what my life would be like if I'd never had the coma. My girlfriend of 6 years and sort of fiance was in a severe car crash when she was 16. Both of her best friends died instantly. She was the only survivor, but they didn't think she would make it. She was in a coma for 9 months. She was in what is called a waking coma. She retained normal periods of sleep and open-eyed wakefulness, but no higher brain functions. Here are some things about her experience. She doesn't have any memories of the year prior or the year and a half-ish after her coma, and obviously no memories of the car crash. She suffered at B, and when she first got out of the coma she would get naked and sexual with people and anger very easily. These are common problems of people who suffer at B. She went back to school after the coma, but her brain was still healing a lot. She was held back another year because her brain was still not retaining anything. Today she is a wonderful, bright 30-year-old with a college degree. She has a slight speech impediment, gets frustrated easier than most, and it took her a while to get driving down. Honestly, she still scares the hell out of me when she drives, but there are worse drivers out there. After being in a really bad accident that left one of my good friends, the driver, brain dead, they put me into a chemically induced coma for under a week to prevent brain damage due to swelling. When I first woke up, my memory was much better than it was as it gradually faded in the days to come. I have a journal my mother recorded things in, and I recalled many things I shouldn't have been able to immediately after waking up. Today, I have very little memory of it all, but I can definitely say that having positive people around you definitely helps when you're in a situation like that. If you have a friend in this situation, don't disregard them. Even though your life has moved on, they may wake up one day, and in their mind, not a day has passed since the last conversation they had with you. I was in a coma for 3 days. Unlike most people, I definitely knew time was passing, but didn't know I was in a coma. I kept having weird hallucinations about running a restaurant with my brother, and I kept getting confused and wondering where I was and why I wasn't managing the restaurant. I've never worked at a restaurant and I'm not sure why my brother was involved. Life didn't feel real for a few months following waking up. Edit. Dreams to hallucinations because it fits better. My grandma slipped into a coma for a few days too after her breathing machine in the hospital malfunctioned. She was already very sick, so all of her kids were called to go say goodbye. She woke up on her own, totally unexpected, and just said she had a very rough night. She was in a coma for a few nights, but at the time no one told her she was waking up from a coma. She said she was dreaming that she was in a line with women and there were 2 doors that said Mortis and Vivos, alive and dead, and women had coins that they had to stack up once they arrived to a table. If the coins stayed put and reached a certain height, they'd go to the dead door, and if they kept falling, you'd have to go back and do it all over again. Hers just kept falling and she ended up waking up. When she told us that story, she wasn't aware she was in a coma. After a few days she got the hint. I'm not sure where I read it, but a girl talked about her experience and she mentioned that it was like going in and out of sleeping dreaming. Just when she would feel like she was waking up, she could hear parts of conversations or the TV, but she would slip right back to sleeping. She also said when people would clean her she could feel them touch sensitive parts of her like her armpit and butthole area. I'm an inpatient phlebotomist, and even though some of my patients are sedated, I still always introduce myself and say I'm here to draw some blood, just in case they could hear me. I was put in an induced coma when I was 9 years old after a pretty bad car accident which left me with a fractured skull. All I remember is a bad dream about having a bad headache, and hearing my older sister telling everyone, including my parents, to get the frick out of her way because she wanted to see me. I found out later that this was on the night it happened, and they were trying to calm her down before she saw me. Edit. For those who are telling me to let her know how awesome she is, I made sure to, not quite but almost, hug the life out of her when she got back from work. I was in a coma for about 2 weeks following a cardiac arrest as a teen. I was technically dead for over an hour. In fact, people often ask me if I could hear my family talking to me or if I was dreaming. The answer is number. There is a huge hole in my memory beginning about 2 weeks before the coma through a week after waking up. And waking up is in quotes because I would wake up, ask a bunch of semi-incoherent questions, fall back under, then wake up again and ask the exact same questions, in the exact same order, repeat 6 or 7 times. The coma was not even blackness. It just does not exist. I remember having the hardest time believing it was actually mid-October when the last day I remembered was late September. Ooh, I can answer this one. I was in a medically induced coma for 2 weeks. About 3 months ago, I had open heart surgery. It didn't go well. Had trouble coming off the ventilator, so they just put me in a coma to try to give me time to heal. I had nightmares the entire time from the medicine they were using to knock me out. I thought I had been kidnapped by a nurse and was a victim of sex trafficking. I thought my drug addict aunt and her friends robbed my sister and her husband, killing my brother-in-law and one of their children, and I thought I was constantly being grabbed by people under my bed. It was not fun. I can't say that I knew I was in a coma or anything. I am usually one of those people that when I have a bad dream, I can tell myself it is just a dream and wake myself up in order to end it. This was not like that. I was convinced it was all really happening.